Imagine waking up tomorrow to a world where every snake on Earth had vanished overnight. No cobras hiding in deserts. No pythons moving silently through jungles. No rattlesnakes in the American wilderness. No sea snakes beneath tropical oceans. At first, most people would probably celebrate. For thousands of years, snakes have been feared more than almost any other animal on Earth. Their cold eyes, silent movement, and deadly venom have turned them into symbols of danger in nearly every civilization. Many people would believe the world had suddenly become safer. But that feeling would not last very long. Because snakes are not just predators hiding in the shadows. They are one of the most important balancing forces in Earth's ecosystems. And without them, nature would begin to unravel faster than most humans could imagine. Right now, there are more than 3,900 species of snakes living across the planet. They exist on every continent except Antarctica. Some are smaller than a pencil. Others can grow longer than a bus. Some kill with venom powerful enough to stop a heart within minutes. Others use pure muscle to suffocate prey several times larger than their own heads. But despite their differences, almost all snakes serve the same invisible purpose: control. Snakes are population regulators, silent hunters that keep entire ecosystems from spiraling out of balance. And the moment they disappear, the first signs of collapse would begin underground. Rodents would explode in numbers almost immediately. Rats, mice, and other small mammals reproduce at terrifying speeds. A single pair of rats can produce hundreds of offspring within a single year. Normally, snakes help keep those populations under control. In forests, deserts, farms, and cities, snakes consume enormous amounts of rodents every day. Some large snakes eat dozens each month. Without snakes, that pressure disappears overnight. At first, humans might barely notice the change. But within months, rodent populations would begin multiplying beyond control. Fields would become infested. Grain storage facilities would suffer devastating losses. Farms would experience massive crop destruction. Entire agricultural systems would start weakening under constant attack from billions of hungry rodents. And this is where the true danger begins. Rodents are not just crop destroyers. They are disease carriers. Throughout human history, rats and mice have helped spread some of the deadliest pandemics ever recorded. Diseases like hantavirus, leptospirosis, and plague are closely linked to exploding rodent populations. Snakes silently reduce these risks every single day without humans even noticing. Without snakes, disease transmission would rise dramatically. Cities would become vulnerable first. Urban rats already thrive in human environments. Without natural predators controlling them, sewer systems could become overrun. Food contamination would increase. Hospitals in densely populated areas might begin reporting spikes in rodent-borne illnesses within just a few years. And while humans struggle with disease outbreaks, ecosystems themselves would already be collapsing. In grasslands and forests, rodents consume seeds faster than plants can regenerate. This may sound small, but it creates a chain reaction that spreads through the entire food web. Fewer plants mean less food for insects. Fewer insects mean declining bird populations. Small herbivores begin competing for shrinking vegetation. Predators that rely on balanced ecosystems begin starving. Nature is connected through invisible chains. Remove one important species, and the effects spread everywhere. Snakes are one of those species. In many ecosystems, they exist almost perfectly in the middle of the food chain. They hunt smaller animals, but they are also prey for larger predators. Eagles, hawks, crocodiles, foxes, mongooses, wild cats, and even other snakes depend on them for survival. So when snakes disappear, it does not only create too many rodents. It also creates starving predators. Birds of prey would suffer heavily. In some regions, snakes make up a major part of their diet. Without that food source, reproduction rates would fall. Some species could face local extinction. Mammalian predators would be forced to compete harder for smaller amounts of food, increasing conflict within ecosystems already under stress. And then another hidden problem would emerge. Venom research would disappear forever. Most people see snake venom only as a weapon. But modern science sees something very different. Snake venom contains incredibly complex chemicals that have helped researchers develop life-saving medicines. Treatments for heart disease, blood pressure disorders, and even certain neurological conditions have origins connected to snake venom studies. Without snakes, future medical discoveries linked to venom would vanish before they are ever discovered. Some scientists believe many snake species may carry biochemical compounds capable of treating diseases humans still cannot cure. Cancer, chronic pain disorders, blood clotting problems, and neurodegenerative diseases are all areas where venom research continues today. If snakes disappeared, humanity would lose an entire biological library filled with medical potential. But the environmental collapse would continue growing darker. In tropical rainforests, snakes help stabilize biodiversity. Many species specialize in hunting specific prey. This prevents any one animal population from becoming dominant. Without predators maintaining balance, ecosystems slowly become unstable. Certain species explode in numbers while others disappear completely. Over time, biodiversity itself begins collapsing. And biodiversity is not just about animals. Healthy ecosystems regulate climate, recycle nutrients, purify water, and stabilize soil. When biodiversity declines, those systems weaken too. Forests become more vulnerable to disease and invasive species. Food chains become fragile. Ecosystems lose resilience against droughts, fires, and climate change. All because one group of silent predators disappeared. Ironically, humans often fear snakes because they seem dangerous. But statistically, snakes kill far fewer people than humans imagine. In reality, humans kill vastly more snakes every year than snakes kill humans. Millions of snakes die from roads, habitat destruction, pollution, and direct human hunting. Yet despite this constant destruction, snakes continue protecting ecosystems that humans themselves depend on. Most people never notice because snakes do their work invisibly. Beneath fields, inside forests, under rocks, deep in wetlands, far away from human eyes. But their absence would become impossible to ignore. Because once nature loses balance, the consequences do not remain isolated. They spread outward like cracks through glass, reaching farms, cities, economies, food supplies, and eventually human survival itself. And the worst part is that the collapse would only accelerate with time. Part 2. As the years pass after the disappearance of snakes, the planet would begin entering a new ecological reality. At first, humans might try solving the growing rodent crisis with pesticides and traps. Governments would likely launch massive extermination campaigns. Cities would invest billions into pest control systems. Farmers would spray larger amounts of poison across agricultural land in desperation. But nature does not respond well when humans try replacing predators with chemicals. Because rodents evolve quickly, over time, many species would develop resistance to common poisons, just as bacteria evolve resistance to antibiotics. Some rodents already survive chemicals that once wiped out entire populations. Without snakes acting as a natural long-term control system, humans would be trapped in a never-ending battle against rapidly reproducing pests. And that battle would come with devastating consequences. Poison used against rodents would spread through ecosystems. Birds would consume contaminated prey. Mammals would ingest toxic chemicals indirectly. Rivers and groundwater would slowly accumulate pollution from years of agricultural pesticide overuse. Entire food chains could become poisoned. Meanwhile, food shortages would begin intensifying around the world. Rodents destroy enormous amounts of crops every year, even with snakes present. Without them, agricultural losses could become catastrophic in certain regions. Wheat, rice, corn, and stored grain supplies would face relentless attacks. In developing nations where food systems are already fragile, millions of people could face increased hunger and economic instability. Food prices would rise globally. Poorer communities would suffer first, and social tensions would begin increasing as governments struggle to maintain food security. But agriculture is only one part of the disaster. The disappearance of snakes would also transform forests in unexpected ways. In many ecosystems, snakes regulate populations of small predators called mesopredators. These include animals like mice, small lizards, frogs, and certain birds. Without snakes limiting those populations, many smaller predators would expand rapidly. This creates a dangerous imbalance. When mesopredators become too abundant, they consume huge numbers of insects, eggs, and smaller animals. Ground nesting birds could experience massive declines. Amphibian populations might collapse in some regions. Certain insect species could disappear, while others explode uncontrollably due to disrupted predator relationships. Nature depends on balance, not domination. Snakes help maintain that balance by quietly controlling the middle layers of the food web. Without them, ecosystems become chaotic. Even oceans would not remain unaffected. Sea snakes are major predators in coral reef systems and coastal waters. They help regulate fish populations and maintain balance in marine food chains. Without sea snakes, certain fish species could overpopulate while others decline. Coral reef ecosystems, already under stress from warming oceans and pollution, would face another destabilizing force. And coral reefs are not just underwater landscapes. They protect coastlines from storms, support fisheries, provide food for millions of people, and sustain some of the highest biodiversity levels on Earth. The collapse of even small parts of reef ecosystems can trigger enormous consequences across entire regions. But perhaps the strangest change would happen psychologically. Humans would slowly realize that fear had blinded them. For centuries, snakes were viewed mainly as symbols of death, evil, and danger. Stories, religions, and myths often portrayed them as creatures to avoid or destroy. Many people celebrated whenever a snake was killed. Yet after their disappearance, humans would finally see what snakes were actually doing all along, protecting the balance of life itself. Scientists would begin publishing alarming reports. Ecologists would warn governments about cascading ecosystem failures. Documentary footage would show exploding rodent populations consuming crops by the millions. Forest surveys would reveal collapsing biodiversity. Public understanding would slowly shift from fear to regret. But by then, it would already be too late. Extinction is permanent. Once an entire evolutionary lineage disappears, millions of years of biological adaptation vanish forever. Snakes first evolved more than 100 million years ago. They survived asteroid impacts, ice ages, continental shifts, and mass extinctions. They adapted into deserts, jungles, mountains, oceans, and grasslands. Over time, they became one of the most efficient predator groups Earth has ever produced. And humans would erase all of it within a geological instant. The loss would not only be ecological, it would also be scientific. Snake movement has inspired robotic engineering designs. Their venom has contributed to medicine. Their heat-sensing abilities influence military and thermal imaging technologies. Even their unique body mechanics continue helping researchers study advanced forms of motion and flexibility. Without snakes, future generations lose access to biological knowledge humans have barely begun understanding. But there is another darker possibility. The disappearance of snakes could indirectly accelerate climate change itself. Healthy ecosystems store carbon more efficiently. Forests with balanced biodiversity absorb and regulate atmospheric carbon better than damaged ecosystems. When food webs collapse, ecosystems weaken. Deforestation risk increases. Soil stability declines. Biodiversity loss reduces resilience against climate stress. Over decades, this can influence global climate systems. Snakes may seem small compared to giant environmental problems, but ecosystems function through countless interconnected relationships. Remove enough key species, and the entire machine begins failing piece by piece. And snakes are far more important than most people realize. Some scientists call species like snakes ecological stabilizers. Not because they dominate ecosystems, but because they quietly prevent instability from spreading. Their role is subtle but essential, like removing a single bolt from a massive bridge. At first, nothing seems wrong, but eventually, pressure builds until the entire structure begins breaking apart. That is what Earth without snakes would look like. A slow-moving collapse that spreads silently across ecosystems, economies, agriculture, disease systems, and biodiversity itself. And humans would discover one terrifying truth. The animals we fear most are sometimes the ones protecting us the most. Eventually, humanity would try doing something it has attempted many times before. Artificial replacement. Scientists would likely begin searching for ways to mimic the ecological role of snakes using technology. Advanced traps, engineered predators, genetic population controls, and biological interventions might all be tested in an attempt to stop the growing imbalance. But nature is far more complicated than any machine humans have ever built. Snakes do not perform one simple function. Different species control different prey in different environments under different conditions. Some hunt underground. Others climb trees. Some live in rivers. Others survive in deserts where almost nothing else can. Together, snakes form a vast network of ecological regulation systems evolved over millions of years. Replacing that naturally would be nearly impossible, and every failed attempt could create even more problems. Introducing artificial predators or genetically modified organisms into ecosystems has historically produced dangerous, unintended consequences. Species introduced to solve one issue often become invasive disasters themselves. Humans may try controlling nature, but ecosystems rarely obey simple solutions. Meanwhile, the emotional relationship between humans and nature would begin changing forever. Children born after the disappearance of snakes would know them only through videos, fossils, and museums. Entire generations would grow up in ecosystems that feel strangely incomplete, even if they cannot explain why. Forests would sound different. Predator-prey relationships would behave differently. Landscapes would slowly transform as biodiversity declines year after year. And eventually, humanity would begin understanding a painful reality. Nature was never designed around human comfort. Snakes were never created to make humans feel safe. They evolved because ecosystems needed them. This is one of the hardest truths humans struggle to accept about the natural world. Animals are not valuable only when they are beautiful, harmless, or useful in obvious ways. Some of the most important species on Earth are the ones humans fear, ignore, or misunderstand. Vultures prevent disease by consuming carcasses. Wolves regulate herbivore populations. Sharks stabilize marine ecosystems. And snakes silently control the spread of ecological chaos. Without them, the illusion of human dominance over nature would begin collapsing too. Because the disappearance of snakes would expose something much larger than a missing animal group. It would reveal how fragile civilization truly is. Human survival depends on stable ecosystems more than most people realize. Modern cities, agriculture, economies, and global trade all rely on invisible environmental systems functioning correctly in the background. Pollinators grow food. Predators maintain balance. Decomposers recycle nutrients. Forests regulate climate and rainfall. Humans often believe technology has separated civilization from nature. But in reality, civilization is built directly on top of it. And once ecosystems begin failing, human systems begin failing too. History already provides warnings. When predator populations decline in certain regions, prey explosions often follow. When ecosystems lose biodiversity, diseases spread more easily. When environmental balance disappears, economies suffer. Entire civilizations throughout history have weakened after damaging the ecosystems supporting them. Earth without snakes would become another version of the same lesson. Except this time, it would happen on a global scale. Scientists might spend decades studying the collapse. Universities would teach future generations about the snake extinction event. Researchers would analyze how fear, misinformation, and habitat destruction helped eliminate one of the planet's most important predator groups. And perhaps the cruelest irony of all would finally become clear. Most snakes never wanted conflict with humans in the first place. The majority of snake species are non-venomous. Even venomous snakes usually avoid confrontation whenever possible. Most snake bites occur when humans accidentally step on them, corner them, or try killing them. Snakes are not aggressive monsters hunting humans across the planet. They are survivors. Silent animals trying to exist within ecosystems humans increasingly destroy. Yet humans often judge animals emotionally rather than ecologically. Creatures considered cute or beautiful receive protection and admiration. Creatures associated with fear or disgust are treated as worthless, even when ecosystems desperately need them. This emotional bias has already pushed many snake species toward extinction today. Deforestation destroys habitats. Roads fragment migration routes. Pollution contaminates environments. Illegal wildlife trade captures rare species. Climate change alters breeding cycles and prey availability. Even now, before snakes disappear entirely, many populations are already declining around the world. And that decline matters more than most people understand. Because extinction does not happen all at once. It happens slowly, quietly, one species at a time, until suddenly the ecosystem reaches a tipping point where recovery becomes impossible. That is the true warning hidden inside this scenario. The disappearance of snakes is not just a fantasy question. It is a reflection of what could happen when humans underestimate the importance of biodiversity itself. Every species on Earth exists as part of a larger system shaped through millions of years of evolution. Some roles are obvious. Others remain hidden until the moment they disappear. Snakes belong to that second category. Invisible guardians of balance. Feared by millions. Understood by few. But absolutely essential to life on Earth. And perhaps the most shocking truth of all is this. If snakes vanished tomorrow, humans would not simply lose a dangerous animal. We would lose one of the silent forces keeping civilization stable from beneath our feet.